One of the things that kind of bubbled up, because I started doing a lot of searching on Matt Chandler, is this woman, Peggy McIntosh. Now, if you're not familiar with Peggy McIntosh, well, back in 1980, 1988, 89-ish, she wrote an article. So it's an essay. It was really short. I don't understand, but so basically she regales in the white privilege aspect. This is where the infamous invisible backpack of white privilege comes from, that analogy. So if you've ever heard somebody say that white people have this invisible backpack or invisible knapsack, sometimes they'll call it, of white privilege, this is where they got it from. They got it from Peggy McIntosh. And so I found the essay and I went over it. So if you follow me on Buy Me a Coffee, you have that video, you can check it out. But today I'm going to go over some takeaways, if you will. And I got my notes right here because I really want to make sure that I give it its fair reading. I looked at it and I said, okay, here's 10 things that I think woke people who subscribe to woke ideology will take away from Peggy's writing, and why Peggy became like I think Vody mentions her in Fault Lines. I've heard other people mention her on both sides of the discussion about critical race theory and woke ideology. I've heard her name bubble up. And so I'm like, well, what is it about her writing that really stands out? I'm going to be 100% honest with you. It's juvenile. What she says is quote unquote privilege is so juvenile. Let me give you an example. Number one, I haven't memorized. Number one, the first principle, the first sign of white privilege is that white people can choose to be with only white people if they want to. That is a sign of white privilege. I said, the fact that anybody did not throw her out on her ear for saying something that dumb, even in 1988, that was mentally deficient to say that. So she's saying that only white people can choose to be with other less melanated people, because black people don't have that choice, because Hispanic people don't have that choice. Asian, Indian, fill in the blanks. They don't have the choice to just be around people of their own ethnic groups. Only white people have that choice. That's what I'm talking about. Like, she's like, if somebody's quoting Peggy McIntosh, just put your arm around them and just say, pat them on the head and say, little Tommy, it's going to be okay. You're going to grow up eventually. It's extremely immature. There might be maybe three ideas in there that are valid, and I'm gonna go through them. But I'm gonna today. I made a couple of I made some highlights, if you will, and these are some things that I think why woke people supported Peggy McIntosh's idea. So my first thought was white privilege is an invisible package of unearned assets that white people carry with them every day. And I think that plays into the guilt of, if you feel like you've achieved something and you, for whatever reason, you feel guilty about that you've achieved something, and you're not trying to flex on people. So you're like, man, I feel bad that I got this great job. I feel bad that my kids are doing well in school. I feel some kind of way because little Tommy across the street or Sally down the road, they don't have that. And I feel some kind of way. So this white privilege idea gives you a place of like, oh, that's it. Ooh, I didn't just work hard. I had some kind of hidden hand of privilege that made this possible. Let's continue. White privilege is a systematic and institutionalized phenomenon, not just an individualized experience. Now, the reason I bring this one up is because they think that instead of it just being, when you look at your own individual life, you're quick to see what you're doing well in your life. But if you make it a group situation or a systematic situation, like, oh man, the only reason I'm doing well is because, the system is in play to help me out, rather than, no, I made some good choices. I made really good choices. I did not eat those extra donuts, and now the scale is going down. These pants are fitting better. I've been running an extra mile every day, and now I'm getting ready for this marathon. It's something that you did. But no, if you say the system, oh man, the scale factory must be in my favor. They must be really looking out for me. I must be running shorter miles than Tyrone down the street. My miles must only be 3/4 of a mile. Like, you start creating these dumb narratives. And that's really what Peggy McIntosh's essay is. It's a series of really dumb thoughts. And I know somebody's going to get angry about it. And guess what? Let's read it together and you tell me that those are not stupid. If you're following me on Buy Me a Coffee, you can see the video. And I'll leave the link for the full 50. I'll put that up here for y'all today because I want you to look at it, and you can look at them yourselves, and you can see, like, What in the merciful name of the Lord is she talking about? I'm going to put it up there right now for you. This is the one that I used. It's from the University of Washington, and I'm going to put it in the chat. So let me finish these up. Third point, white privilege is often overlooked or denied by those who benefit from it. So they're already putting in play an idea that if you deny white privilege, you just know that it's there and you're just lying. That's not true. That's not true. You might not believe it and you might not see it. I think it would be really hard to convince somebody, a person of less melanin who was born poor, who's living on the street now, that they have privilege. I think you'd be really hard pressed to convince him or her that they are privileged. Good luck with that. I'm not going to try to convince them that they're privileged. I'll listen, tell them only thing you have is that you have the mercy of Christ upon you today. That's all I can tell you. I don't know nothing about no privilege. But let us continue. White privilege confers advantages on many areas of life, including education, employment, and housing. So instead of you making good decisions, you have to now genuflect that something external has given you something nefarious external has given you these things that you have, the good employment, the education, the housing. You can't just say, God blessed me to make good decisions. God blessed me to marry a brilliant wife. Lady Dear Woke Christian is brilliant. I'm telling you right now, I overkicked my coverage for sure. That ain't got nothing to do with systems. Nothing. It has everything to do with me shanghaiing that girl to marry me 21 years ago. That's what it is. But they ain't got nothing to do with no systems. And I promise you, that woman works hard to be a fantastic wife and a great mother to these kids. It ain't got nothing to do with systems. But guess what? The same thing can be said about any woman, any husband, any kids, ethnicity set aside. If they work hard and they're trying to honor Christ. So Peggy is just dumb. I'm sorry. I know people are gonna get mad about me saying that, but I'm gonna say it again. Peggy McIntosh is stupid. White privilege can be seen in the way white people are presented in the media and popular culture. When Peggy wrote this was at the high watermark of The Cosby Show, A Different World. There were so many positive Black sitcoms and televisions and documentaries and such out in the 1988, 89 time period. And she's saying at that time that Black people weren't properly represented in media. What are you talking about, Patty? The fact that it was done when she wrote it, so it's even more ludicrous now. I don't understand how people let this get away. But see, this is what you heard Matt mention it. Matt Chandler mentions the invisible backpack. Brian Laritz talks about the invisible backpack. I've heard them talk about on Jude 3 platform. I've heard countless others talk about the invisible backpack, and they're quoting this woman. And if you're looking for it, I left the link for the all 50 here, and I did a video on my Buy Me a Coffee. I'll be putting it up shortly for you all as well. White privilege can create blind spots in how white people perceive and experience the experiences of people of color. You know why? Because you're not me. Because the assumption is that my experiences are some level of holy, or my experiences are something to be venerated. My experiences are just my experiences. That ain't got nothing to do with you. Ain't got nothing to do with anybody else. That's my experiences. They oversimplify and they overcomplicate various things in life. So my experiences have to be super complicated. They're not just my individual experiences. So whatever I experience, I'm wearing a black hat and a black shirt. Oh, people of high melanin wear black hats and black shirts. That's silly. That's dumb. And again, if you disagree with me, dearwokec@gmail.com, we can talk about it. But again, I'm gonna tell you right now, Peggy was stupid, and she should have got laughed off the stage. Number 8. This is my 8th thing this is why woke people embrace this. Recognizing white privilege is the first step in working towards a more just society. So the way to be just in society is to be more unjust. Okay, that made sense to her. White people can use their privilege to advocate for and amplify the voices of people of color. I noticed something. Peggy McIntosh did not divest herself of any of her resources. I noticed that Matt Chandler did not divest himself of any of his resources. Robin DiAngelo, she talks about this a lot as well. She does not divest herself of any of her resources. So she should be giving all of her resources to people of high melanin and working to give them those resources because she has an advantage. If she was truthful and honest to this idea, but she's not. She's not. And the last one, this is something why people picked up and ran with this. White people must actively work to dismantle systematic racism and inequality. See, she makes everybody who has a certain melanin content must all work together to dismantle a system that they might not even understand. You know what could work? Peggy could just give everybody her paycheck. Give me your paycheck, Peggy. She has a pretty nice net worth. She's not breaking off any bread over here at Whitaker Park. So does she really mean what she says? Because I don't think she does. Here's some things that I think why most of us, well, let me say this is reasons why Jason disagrees with Peggy, why I think that her idea is not helpful. And these are mine. Now, grace and peace. If you're enjoying this video, could you please consider leaving a comment down below? Just let me know where you're from or maybe your favorite type of ice cream, whatever it is. Just leave me a comment. It does help the algorithm and helps YouTube push this out to more people so more people can discover this channel. Thanks so much. And let's get back to it. Grace and peace. People like myself reject the idea that white privilege altogether, seeing that it is a divisive concept that pits people against each other. And feel free to jump in if you agree. I'm sorry, if you're like me, feel free. I said people like me may see the concept of white privilege as an attack on white people or suggestion that they are inherently bad. And might I also say that it's a propping up and an infantilization of black people. You think that black folk can't do certain things. Black people can't do certain things unless white folk do something to help them out. People like myself feel that acknowledging white privilege is not productive or helpful in addressing race or ethnic inequalities. There are racial inequalities. There are ethnic inequalities. Cultural disparities are real. Those are real. However, some of them, well, first of all, I think we need to make sure we unpack exactly what they are. Do they really need to be addressed as a large scale, or does one group need to do something to help another group, or does one group need to help itself? Those are some things that really need to come together. My next point, some people like myself feel that the concept of white privilege does not take into account the experiences of poor or working class white people or successful black people or other people groups. It just makes everybody's very cookie cutter. Black folk can't succeed. All white people do succeed. Where does that play out, Peggy? There were poor white people in 1988 when Peggy wrote this stupid thing. Well, what happened to it, Peggy? What happened? So people like myself may feel that white privilege is an oversimplification of the complex societal issues. Amen. People like myself feel that the concept of white privilege is used to silence and discredit the opinions of other people. So you just say, instead of me agreeing with you or me disagreeing with you on the merit of your argument being false or the merit of your argument not being valid, I'm just saying, oh, well, you just got white privilege, and that discredits you. So it's really like bearing false witness. People like myself may feel that the concept of white privilege is a form of reverse discrimination. And I will go as far to say, correct myself and say that it is a form of reverse discrimination. It is. You can't beat discrimination by being discriminatory. That doesn't work. It's silly. It's silly. People like myself feel that the concept of white privilege ignores the ways in which people of color have advanced and have privileges. Absolutely. And that's what I think really the brass tacks is like. You're looking at black people and people of color and other ethnic groups very myopic, very closed-minded, and such like that. I don't think that Peggy, I tried to do some research because she says something in one of her 50 that made me feel like, oh, is Peggy married? As a matter of fact, if you read the 50 comments by Peggy McIntosh, I think you'll see the one that made me think like, oh, what kind of, I think she's a part of the, I don't know. It almost rang like she was a part of the alphabet mafia. I bring that up because I couldn't find out what was her faith system. Was she a professing Christian? Was she a Buddhist? Or atheist? What? Because her ideas clearly seem atheistic to me, because it's a very super simplification of the wickedness and evilness of humans. And that's, to me, a telltale sign that you've embraced an idea that's extra biblical, because there's no way for you to look at humans and say, oh, well, all white people work together in concert against black people. Really? Really? Come on. You looked at the landscape of any playground and you told me that that's the case? Really? Really? Come on, Pegs. And lastly, I think it's the last one, people like myself feel that the concept of white privilege is too focused on race and overlooks the forms of inequality. And really not just inequality, but the forms of sin. You just overlook the fact that we're sinners. And guess what? I'm a dark-skinned sinner and you're a light-skinned sinner. You're a medium-complected sinner. We're all sinners. And Peggy McIntosh makes it extremely juvenile about sin. And she doesn't even address it. Let's just be honest, tell the truth. She don't even address it. So I don't think that, so the fact that, people like Matt Chandler and Robin DiAngelo and all these other people feed from this pig trough of knowledge that Peggy espouses, I think it says a lot. It says a whole lot about them, because it's not discerning. Like, this is just dumb. So I'm going to stand flat foot on that one too. So my name is Jason. If you got issue, complaint, concern, dearwokec@gmail.com. Peggy McIntosh was a hot mess, but I dropped the link, and I'll put it down here again. I dropped the link you can read it and just tell me what you think about it. Comment down below. I would love to hear what you think about this white privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack by Peggy McIntosh. Like I said, it's actually only 2 pages, and then there's some other essays that go along with it. But this one's just a short essay, and this is the infamous backpack argument. But I'd love to hear what you think about it. Give me your thoughts, comments, and I really feel like I got lost here in these comments. So I do apologize. Ooh, Betty, come on, Betty. Look what Betty said. Like Christian, and she's giving me a nod to Pilgrim's Progress. I know what you're doing there, Betty. That's the comment of the day right there. She said, like Christian, we lost our knapsacks at the foot of the cross. Come on, man. Betty, that's some good stuff right there. That might shut the whole party down. I love it. I love it because it's true. And y'all know me. I love John Bunyan. And that book is right over my shoulder. All right. Y'all know I love John Bunyan. And Pilgrim's Progress is definitely one of my highlights. When Pilgrim makes up to the top of the hill, he gets to the cross, and his backpack that had been burdening him down falls off and rolls down the hill. I ain't gonna say I'd be crying. I'm just saying, like, whoo, it gets hot in the room. And I love that scene. I love that scene so much. Thank you, Betty. That encouraged me right there. That might actually that might become the thumbnail. I love it. Thank you so much. Deadwing, yes, all privileges have a blind spot. Absolutely. I mean, just think about it. Okay, watch this. Let me show you how ridiculous that is. You have a family, whether you have kids in your house or they have gone off to build their own families. You have a family. Now, your kids, they more than likely, when they come home to visit you, they usually just walk in the door. They have a key. They have the gate code. They have the garage door opener. They just walk in the house. That's a privilege. Because I couldn't, as much as you might love Dear Woke Christian, you might say, Dear Woke Christian, come to visit me in Oklahoma. Dear Woke Christian, we are here in New York State. Dear Woke Christian, come visit us in Florida. It don't matter how much you care about me. You not just let me walk up in your crib. That's just not going to happen. And guess what? I'm not letting you walk up in Whitaker Park either. It's okay. That's not mean. That don't mean I don't like you. That don't mean that you dislike me because I got a lot of melanin and you got less melanin. That's not a privilege that I have. Now, it might take a little while. I have some friends of mine's house keys. And I could, if I wanted to right now, go to their house and go into their homes. It's going to take some time for that. But I have that privilege to do that. I wouldn't expect that from all of y'all. So the idea and the notion that just because something that you do is privileged to certain people and not to everybody, that's so juvenile. I can't believe that she actually wrote that. That's the part that makes me crazy. Like, wait, y'all esteem this and thought that peer reviewed this and all that jazz? Peggy was crazy. She constantly showed ethnic preference so she could be cool. I agree. Like she was the pre-Robin DiAngelo. She was the Robin DiAngelo before Robin DiAngelo was cool, which, by the way, Robin DiAngelo is not cool.